Hi, this is David Caroline Luthier, and today we're doing a full refret on this Martin HD-28 2R. I don't get to do full refrets on acoustic guitars very often, so I thought I'd show you all that. This was a guitar that somebody had done a very bad neck reset and had basically destroyed the original neck. So someone else had made a whole new neck for this guitar, which works, doesn't look very good, and it buzzes. So the customer doesn't want to pay for a whole new neck, but I want to get it playable, get it playing right. And the biggest thing is the fret work was very poorly done on this, so it's going to need a full refret, all 20-some frets. I'm going to pull all these out, put new frets in it, get it level, and get this guitar playing right like it should. Okay, so first thing we got to do here is we're going to have to pull these old frets out. And this is usually where a lot of people mess up with the refret. So they go too fast, they don't use enough heat, and they end up pulling chips of wood out. So what we do with every fret is take a soldering gun. We want to heat these up just to loosen up any glue or any just built up gunk underneath the fret, and just break it free from the wood. Back and forth across the fret a few times. We take fret pullers, right from one end. Slowly work my way to the Okay, so we got all the frets out, and normally wouldn't have to do this, but since this neck is kind of screwed up, I want to go ahead and sand this fretboard to make sure it's level. Put a straight edge on it. I see a little bit of a hump up here on the tone. So the first thing I got to do is pop this nut off so I can get a full stroke with my sanding block. And we'll do a 16-inch radius on this, which is standard for Martin. This is close. It's not quite right because it's a crudely made neck. We're going to have to take this nut off. We're just going to go around this with a razor blade and cut through the finish. I want to finish off. We're going to heat this up and pop this off. The first thing we got to do is get this cut through the finish. So we'll pull up a big chippy finish and we'll pop this nut off. Whoever done this has sense enough to use hide glue.
This nut was actually glued on with super glue instead of hide glue, which, as you will see in a minute, did cause some problems.
That's sit on there for about 3 minutes.
In case you're wondering, that is just a heat block, a block of scrap steel, the handle that I've welded to it. I heat that up to about 250 degrees on a hot plate, which should melt the traditional hide glue. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, they do not use hide glue. Now, normally a few taps with a nylon punch and a hammer should pop that nut right off after heating it, but this one didn't want to do right because it was done with super glue, not hide glue.
Oh, this ain't that hard.
There goes a piece of it.
Okay, so I get to make a new nut. Okay, so the nut come off in 2 pieces. Not quite what I was looking for, because the idiot that made this neck decided to glue it with super glue and then hide glue. But now that's done, we'll sand this down. We have our 16-inch radius block. All the way through all our sandpaper bits, get this thing level, trued up, and our new frets in it.
Would have to make a new nut for this guitar, but making a nut is a video unto itself, so I decided not to show that on here. I'm starting with 100 grit sandpaper to level this fretboard and get out some dings and dents, and I'll work my way up through the grits up to about 600 grit.
Looks much better. Main thing I was trying to get this, there was a hump right here trying to get out. Or somebody did not get this clamp down tight enough when they glued this neck in place. And that would certainly cause some buzzing around here. Sand a little bit more, get some of these scratches out. Whoever made this neck was kind of sloppy. And we'll go through our finer grits.
I'm sanding using a 16-inch radius sanding block. Martin guitars will vary with vintage guitars because more handwork was done, but 16-inch radius is pretty much standard for all modern Martins.
Okay, so now we're finally ready to put our new frets in. And we get our fret wire in 2-foot sections like this. So what we'll do for each fret is we'll cut it just slightly oversized, bend it to match the radius of this fretboard. You know, trim a little bit of the tang off of it because it has binding. So the ends of the frets have to come up over the top of the binding. So the very tang of this fret has to be trimmed away. So we do that with a fret nipper. And a little needle file.
This tool here is the fret nipper from StuMac. Just cuts the tang off of the fret at the very end so that it can come up over top of the binding. And I usually like to go over that with a needle file a little bit because it's not perfect. It does leave a little bit of a burr.
You have to bend it to match this radius. Actually, bend it a little bit past the radius.
Hammer it down.
And hammer it down, it flattens out. If you have it too flat, you hammer it down, the ends will pop up. So you actually bend it just a little bit past where you need it. It'll flatten out as you drive it in. And we simply repeat this process for every single fret until we get to the extension over the top of the body. Now, as with any acoustic guitar, you cannot hammer over the top of the body without having some sort of support underneath. So I like to press these last few frets in using a couple clamps and my sanding block as a clamping caul. Okay, the next step here is leveling the frets. No matter how evenly you hammer them in, they will always be a little bit uneven. So I'm sanding it using the same sanding block and 220 sandpaper. So while the nut has to be removed so I get a full stroke as I sand those last few frets. And here I'm using a small straight edge to check for any high spots, any frets I didn't quite get level. Now the frets are nice and level. The next step is we have to bevel the edges of the frets because they still have a very sharp edge from where they were cut. We'll do that by running our fret file on the edge of the neck at about a 45-degree angle. Okay, our next step is we have to crown the frets. Now if they're level, it's left the tops of all of these frets flat and rough, so we'll have to take a fret crowning file, which is the concave file, and hit each fret. I mark them first so I can see where I'm cutting. And we'll take each fret down to remove the mark and know they're completely rounded. Now I just take a very small file to dress the ends of the frets, just removing any small burrs and getting a nice rounded edge. And once that's done, polish the frets using 600 grit sandpaper followed by a blending. Alright, as you can see, we got this guitar strung up, ready to go. We've installed our new nut. Frets look nice and smooth and even. There's no more buzzing. Guitar plays good all the way up and down the fretboard, and it should be good to go for several more years. Thank you for watching. This is David at Carolina Luthier, and I'll see you around.